nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa. You ain't seen nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa. I think there's something in the water. If you wanna take a sip, but be careful what you wish for. The faint of heart can't handle it. Everybody wants a piece of someone else's prize, but it ain't free, it don't come cheap. Only the strongest will survive. You ain't seen nobody like this.
Good evening and welcome to San Antonio Soccer Roundtable. My name is Harry. We got the full crew tonight, and we will have Edson from down in the valley joining us a little bit later to talk about the last Copa Tejas match of this year against RGV and San Antonio FC. But as always, let's start with initial thoughts on the week here. We'll start with you, Rafa, down in the corner. What was your thoughts on the week?
Well, after the loss at San Diego, so we had two important games, that we should get the 6 points, and I'm glad we got the 6 points, even though Lauda kind of made things a little bit difficult on Wednesday night, but we were able to pull through, and they get some controversial play at the end, but hey, a win's a win, and took care of business against Vegas, even though we're shorthanded some players, especially from cards, and I don't know for the next game we'll be short-handed with the cards too as well. But overall, we got the 6 points. We just need 3 more against RGV, so that way before we head out to Indianapolis.
Robert, how was your week?
Not too bad. I mean, just kind of piggybacking off what Rafa said, 6 puntos. Like, you just get 6, you're good. Keep trucking. Like, those are games, like you said, home games against teams that you're supposed to beat. Take care of business. I mean, the big things is, and we'll get into it later, but the lineups, like the fact that they're plugging in players and things are working. I mean, what can you say? 6 points or 6 points.
Royce, how are you? I know, I think you mentioned school starting or has started for you, or?
Yeah, started today, and we get to go back to that whole schedule. I mean, my kid went to like a summer program, so it's not like it's going to be a completely different routine, but we had to drop him off at 8, right? Yeah, we had to drop him off at 8 for the summer program. Now we have to have him at school by 7:30. So that little transition to leaving at 7:30 versus leaving at 6:30, that's going to be taxing. But hey, good luck parents that have to do the same thing all over the place, because that sucks. So, yep, and having to get your kid up an hour earlier. Oh, buddy. Oh, struggle. But we're doing it.
Ours doesn't start till next week, but we're trying to get them off of the summertime schedule. So that's been a struggle for that here.
Yep.
So 2 matches. First one here, San Antonio versus Loudoun. I'll admit, I think we lucked out. I'll start out saying that I thought the game should have been put away and wasn't, and it almost bit them in the butt. But let's take a look at the highlights. And this is courtesy of USL Championship, YouTube, and ESPN Plus.
And our entire crew. I'm Dan Weiss. Thanks for joining us this evening on Valley Sports. SAFC and their home black kids trimmed in silver.
Put it on the screen.
San Antonio FC dominate.
That would be good to do.
Melvin Rivas is our center referee, and we are set
Take
for
2.
soccer here on a Wednesday night. Along with Hayden Partain and our entire crew, I'm Dan Weiss. Thanks for joining us this evening on Valley Sports. SAFC and their home black kids trimmed in silver. San Antonio FC dominated early possession against Galaxy 2, doing the same, and the Danarin will finish this one off.
We run into the box, and Justin Dillon just passes it along the carpet and just tap in. They're not going to get as tired as fast. See how the conditions affect the players.
Hernandez. What a save there. Patino giving it a go and turn over goal there by Zamudio.
Yeah, I was thinking of San Diego. They probably had a bitter taste in their mouth playing against SAFC, so that can add to it.
Got a hitter there for Patino. Good save for Zamudio.
I will say Patino's due. He's had what between this week 3 or 4 close. That I think any other game goes in.
I'm surprised he didn't try to do like a bicycle kick on that one because he didn't have space to clobber that one in.
Brian Martin's been doing some plays on the training ground.
This is a chance.
Well, to be fair,
it's an equalizer.
yeah.
All right, Ruff, I want you to break down this one here. I
game.
know we kind of talked about it here before, but your thoughts on how this goal happens?
Yeah, Maloney kind of falls asleep on this play with his man. He gets called ball watching there instead of following his guy, closing in on him. Just allows space for that shot. If he cuts in front of him, and that he would have blocked that shot or intercepted that pass.
Because he peels. This is Maloney here. It looks like he peels off over there. So you got 2 guys covering him, and that's what left him wide open.
That's a defensive mistake right there. You know,
but is that on Maloney or is that on?
I think it's on both because they have to have communication. He say, "Hey, I got man." That way, someone else shifts to that gap.
This is one of those.
Go ahead.
This is one of those instances where the guy that's closest to the goal scorer isn't really at fault, but he tries to make up for somebody else's fault.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's Taintor's the entire time. Taintor
does
not need to come as far outside. Taintor is a center back. He needs to be more to the center. Maloney is a left back. He needs to be further out and take the guy that's further out. So that, yes, it's a breakdown in communication, but if you want to say that guy's that person's, Maloney's taking the right guy, that should be Taintor's. But where Maloney is at fault is when he does decide to mark him, he gives up on the run. He gives up on the play, and 27 does
right
not.
There, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Maloney
needs to get between. Yeah, Maloney needs to get between him and the goal right there, and follow the run. And he kind of stopped running. That's the problem. So it's a breakdown in communication. It's Mitch's guy, but at the same time, Maloney, if he's going to mark that guy, he's got to get between him and the goal. And it's just kind of a breakdown. And
because if Mitch is over there, then that closes that hole to start with.
27 has nowhere to run. He's going to run right into Taintor if Taintor closes that hole. But he stays wide. Maloney switches, and that's why Maloney has that look. He's like, I should have followed him. So Maloney's partially to fault, of course, but this is kind of what happens. This is what happens later in the season. This is kind of honestly what we saw kind of last season toward the end.
And we're nitpicking.
It's kind of no, absolutely. We're not pros by any means. I would not be able to make that run that late in the game. But this is just one of those things where you could see the breakdown, you could see what happened, and it happens. It's professional soccer. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's perfect. And this is just one of those little breakdowns that happens. So,
and Loudoun United in the 45th minute has leveled the match at 1.
That's the defense turns, continues his run on, little 1-2.
And I will say, give credit to Manley for coming all the way over.
Yep.
And almost
he almost got there. Yep, because he saw the play. Manley saw the play happening. Oh, boo! And then.
Boom.
Sam's just like, you know what? I'm tired of wasting all these chances. You put it in the corner, guys. Put the team on the back. Let's go.
He was due. He wasn't going to make the same mistake so many times.
That was sick. That was unbelievable.
That was a nice pass. The big thing is all the sitters. Though. God, there were so many.
Yeah, and then he's like,
he could have scored 5 goals.
Exactly. It's like Steph Curry missing like 5 or 6 layups and then just deciding to make the half court shot to win it right there. So
there's no goalie that's stopping this in this.
That's the spider web
in the world.
Yeah,
in the world, there's no keeper that saves that in the world.
Yeah, he knocked the cobwebs off the 90.
Yep.
You could say that,
Nobody saves that.
And that goalie gave him credit. He was actually pretty good all game.
Nobody saves that.
Couldn't have placed it any more perfectly. And it was off the misplay in the defensive third.
That's
there
that
by
Arjen
Mr.
Robin
Golazo.
cutting in with his left foot from the right side and just putting it in the damn corner.
Of the
That was
field,
perfect.
but
And the
it's
boss
gonna have
walk
to
off
be
too, like as if you've done it. It's
Yeah.
like normal.
Yep.
Oh, and it's deflected.
And then this one just missed time.
So the offside
Just
flag
missed time.
is up.
They
Way
just
off.
missed time. It was. I agree. It was offside. It's not a homer call. He made his run about a fraction of a second too early to stay onside. He was just offside, and they show. I mean, continue it. They should show the side view.
So Matt is asking a pivotal question. Does PC look like Sid from Toy Story?
He wants to destroy. I mean, PC and Sid, they're both destroyers. So does he act like him? Maybe. Does he look like him? Debatable. Let's buy him one of those skull and crossbones black shirts and we'll see.
So
I guess in the highlights they didn't show the side view, but there is a side view camera, and that player for Loudon, he was about a yard offside. He made his run a little too early.
So my view of this game, and I knew I kind of tipped it at the start, is San Antonio should not have been in that position where they gave up almost a tying goal. And I know it was slightly offside, but to me, I consider San Antonio lucky to walk away with the 3 points on this, because I could have seen them call. With the pro referees, I could have seen them give it, because I watched the replay. It's close. It's extremely close. Robert, your thoughts on the Loudon match? Any final thoughts? I know the second half really wasn't a whole lot to it. Obviously by the highlights, and even remember watching the game there, it was just it was like the first, I want to say 20-30 minutes, San Antonio controlled. San Antonio had several opportunities, and then second half it was they played and they kicked the ball, but nothing that really stood out to me.
I mean, like I said, the finishing in the final third might have put the game away sooner. That was one thing I took away from that. And then what I remember from years past, or even the USL in general, is just winning ugly sometimes is what you have to do, especially coming off a short rest, off an emotional loss, all the way from the West Coast to playing a team that, isn't that exciting to play. The juices aren't flowing. Win ugly. I mean, in the years past, these are games when we lose or tie. So in my mind, I'll take an ugly loss all day. Now, yeah. I can't fault him for that.
3 points. Nobody's going to remember this, at the end of the season. Rafa, your thoughts?
Playing a team like Loudon, with their inexperience, they don't have really guys that are MLS experience compared to us. What we have, we should have at least put 4 or 5 on these guys and put them away early. But we just can't let teams hang around and get it's kind of similar, kind of like the Atlanta game too. We kind of have them hang around. We just can't do that. You're playing a team like this that does not have a lot of experience. I mean, their youngest player was 15 years old.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about Gavin Turner here in a second.
You have to put these guys away, and like I said, they got a quality win against Phoenix. So, they have something on their cap that we don't. But, if you keep, like I said, they're a scrappy bunch. They get on a roll. Yeah, they're talented. If they get on a roll, you give them opportunity. They're gonna, and they did get one on us, but we're just lucky that we didn't give up those 3 points. And I think that's something they learned from this game going to the next one. We couldn't put up, we just can't keep teams are hanging around. So lesson learned from them for this. But I think when we play experienced teams, we gotta take them out right away.
Your thoughts on the match, Royce?
Yeah, I mean, we outshot them 19-7. On net, six shots to 3. We didn't finish the chances, and it's been like that for maybe a month, where we put together all these chances and we just don't finish them. I mean, same thing happened. To be fair, same thing happened with Phoenix. The second time we played them in Phoenix, same thing happened against San Diego. We just got to finish our chances, man. And that's kind of one of those things where it's the soccer gods, when they go in, we're going to win 6-0. When they don't, it's going to be a slog. And this match kind of goes with that. You mentioned earlier about, I'm surprised Patino headed that and didn't do a bicycle kick. earlier in this match, and this is going to go to the next game, it'll be a good transition. Earlier in this match, Mitch Taintor tried to do a bicycle kick and kicked the defender in the face and got a yellow card for it, and that's why he's suspended for the upcoming match that we're going to talk about against Las Vegas. So that's what we call in the industry a transition. Go ahead, Harry. On to Vegas.
So on to Vegas here. For that here, we'll go back up here and press play.
We are set for soccer. Our opening kick tonight is brought to you.
So this match,
SAFC.
before we get started here, this match featured no Tainer due to the suspension. Garcia was out due to a lower body. Highlights don't show this, but around the 24th minute, 25th minute, Manley goes out. So we end up playing majority of this match with our back. Kamiri, you can kind of say is, one of the main starters, but I think right now the preference, he would be fourth on the list. I think as far as starters for that here. So that was the interesting tidbit on this match here with the lights here is how they did with basically their backup back line, which to me I think is what for the first time this year where they've had the forwards be mixed, and Abu was still out. I think those were the big keys that were out, right?
That's what I was going to say. That was the biggest thing in this match was that you had basically your starting 3 center backs for this season out. And so you had Jordi DeLim and you had Kamirian. And at the same time, in the midfield, you had Abu, your rock in the middle, out. So the midfield really needed to take a lot of the brunt and help out the back line to help them secure this. And let me tell you, they pitched a shutout. Let's watch the highlights.
Meeting for the second time in 17 days, along with Hayden Partain and our entire crew. I'm Dan Weiss. Thanks for joining us here at Ennery. We thought about giving it a go, and now we'll turn it out wide. Mickey Hernandez, edge of the pop.
So Rafa, you want to? Well, let's go here. So he ends up missing the shot here, but Rafa, where do you think that he should have went?
Well, that was going to be a cross, but the way he hit it, you could see us the spin on the ball, cut the goalie off guard there. He wasn't covering his post. I think he was cheating on.
Well, no, this is Patino. This is Patino.
Yeah, one's Patino and that one. Yeah.
This one's Patino because he tries to go far post, but during the match he said he should have went near post.
Just bury it.
Yeah, that one he should have gone near post. And like I said, it's wide open.
The goalie's way over here. I don't think he reaches.
I think the run. I think he makes the run too quickly, and the service ends up being behind him, and so he kind of heads it back.
And that's just got to be
watch the ball's. Oh man, yeah, the ball's slightly behind him, and he has to cock his head. He has to cock his head, and he just kind of missed it. And then this one, my goodness,
it's a shot.
It's not a crot.
It's
That's just a shot. Yeah, it's not a crot. A shot. Yeah.
I will tell you because we set, in 114. I expected the cross, but when you saw that ball and the curve that it had, the spin, I would say it's probably one of the top 2 or 3 goals that I've seen in Toyota Field, in person. Just because I was able to I thought it was a cross. I won't lie, just like everybody else in the stadium, the announcers, I thought it was a cross, but being able to watch the trajectory of the ball and to see it just curve in, it was one of those amazing things that unless you're there right in that seat, I don't think you get the same experience, because it took my breath away for a second just on how it went in.
So you can see the goalie cheat on to the right because I think he was expecting another cross from Deodorant, and also Patino was right there too.
So 2 things real quick. We're going to turn to a baseball podcast real quick. This is why baseball is so difficult, and this is why hitting a baseball is so difficult. Now you see that this is a soccer ball. This is a large ball, and you're expecting the cross. You're expecting the cutter, if you will, the spin going to the left, and you get a sinker, a ball that spins to the right. It looks almost the same until it's not, and then it goes. That's why baseball's so hard, because you can throw a cutter that goes the same way, and you can face I don't know, Jordan Hicks with the Cardinals, who throws 101 mile an hour cutter or 104 mile an hour sinker. Good luck, because you don't know which way the ball's going, and that's why baseball's hard. Number 2 is can we talk about the background to this goal? Apparently, Nikki in the post-game interview said that Mitchell Tainor watched, and I guess Nikki watched the Arsenal against Tottenham match, or was it Tottenham
Chelsea.
and Arsenal? Was it
Chelsea and
that's-
Tottenham.
Chelsea.
No? Yeah, that's right. It was whoever Arsenal played. Arsenal played. Oh, buddy,
I'll
was
tell you here in a
it
second.
Brighton? Anyway, they watched one of the English Premier League matches and said that somebody hit a shot when they were in a position for a cross and it was successful for a goal. So Taintor texted Nikki, "Hey, why don't you try that? Let's get crazy." And
So
there you go.
Arsenal played Leicester City.
Leicester
City.
yeah, it was
Leicester.
Arsenal and Leicester. Yeah, it was Arsenal and Leicester. That's who it was. So, assist to Taintor, not even on the field, being suspended. Is that the first ever? Could be. Could be. Some are saying.
I've scored a goal like that. Like looking, there was going to be a cross, but I noticed the keeper was kind of cheating that way. And then that little hit on the outside of the foot got the spin, and I was able to score one exactly like that when I was in high school. So
The Roberto
that's-
Carlos.
yeah, Roberto Carlos there, little action.
And Rafa mentioned this right after it happened. There was a little bit of an assist to the wind because the wind was blowing a little bit to that, a little bit towards the goal at that time as well. So
Yeah, we got that tropical storm in Corpus. So yeah, the wind would have been blown to the north. So that does make sense toward the north stand. I also will say real quick, if you want to go to the San Antonio FC Twitter page, they did post a video from somebody sitting right in front of section 114, and you can see the spin of the ball, and you can see the whole thing kind of in
The
real
pace
time.
that he hit it
So-
like so slow. Like square.
Banger. Yeah,
The pace-
absolute
pace.
shot. Yeah.
And the net. What a strike from Nicky Hernandez. Brilliant from the youngster.
And he's not even looking up at the goal. He's like, let me get inside the 6.
Don't think the keeper's expecting it.
It was fun watching.
and this is a quality goalkeeper that they were facing too
Yeah.
from the lights. This wasn't some young guy. This guy was quality.
As this comes free to Connor
Maloney almost.
He gets it again.
Actually, their
Maloney-
defense. I was impressed with their
Maloney
defense. Yeah.
has been
Maloney's overdue a goal.
he's
close.
been so close this entire season, like 5 or 6 chances, which
Yep.
really makes me hope that here in Toyota Field, when we get to the final this year, he's going to get the game-winning goal and
Oh.
finally put one in. Oh my God, it's killed me how close he's been this entire season. And that one, I was just,
Him and
Oh.
Abu, like the last, he's been out a few games, but prior to that, like he's been so close. All of
Yeah.
a sudden, you could tell they both want it. Like they're
yeah. It's hurt. It hurts watching. It hurts watching
Mhm.
this, but oh man. And then the service. Nikki does his best Fabian Garcia / Moabu
Well
impression.
delivered, and it's well executed by Jasser Kamiri. The header in stoppage time.
Ja-
and the first man
absolutely,
knocks it in.
absolutely pumped.
On
And
set
the
piece from
pumped.
Nicky
That's exciting.
Hernandez, and
The worst part of
SAFC
that,
is up 2.
they didn't count it as a Jasser Kamiri goal. They gave it as an own goal, which doesn't make any sense because that shot is
But
on
it's
net.
no. If you watch the replay, because me and Rafa looked at it here, it goes off of his head directly into the back of the lights player, and that's how it bounces in.
Agree to disagree.
they need to like
The
have
evidence is right here.
They did-
And I would give him a goal, but that's
Yeah,
Right here you go.
They need to have the rule where, like, if the offensive player puts that much
It's on
pressure,
net.
forces the own goal. Same with Monterey Bay when Sam hit it, like, it bounced off that guy. It's like, dude, he put the pressure on there to lead to it. It's not like it was a miscue like Indy versus New Mexico where he passed it right back. That's an own goal.
Here's the reason why they didn't give it to him, though, is because if it would have been a shot on goal, he would have got it. But I think what he was trying to do was head it over here to Dylan for the easy tap in. But it went off. It went off of here. But that's the only way that I think that.
I mean, technically it's right, but it's like if you're the guy who puts
No,
the
I agree.
pressure to force the goal, there should be a different. I don't know.
Jasser was robbed.
Got a sitter back here on the
But
set
I can
piece.
at least see it. But yeah, I think it should. You know, I would have loved it to be.
Guessing he's liking taking set pieces now.
And then the massive Dos Acero chant that I was hearing ringing as I was fishing. That was fun.
The defender.
Yeah, peek behind the curtain. I was not at this game. We were fishing instead. Oh my goodness. We were fishing at the Packery channel, and I had
This
a
was
game.
nasty.
Yeah, no, this was. Oh, and then.
Oh yeah, if that went in, that was cheeky. That was cheeky.
That reminded me of that goal that England scored on the girls. It was against Norway.
Right?
That was cheeky. That was close.
No option.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't
Rafa
get-
was thinking if he went to the far post, but he wouldn't really been able to
You're
go
not-
to the far
you're-
post at this angle here.
You
Yeah,
are
there's always
aiming
shot.
at the goal. You were not
Yeah,
aiming
yeah,
at
yeah.
any
Yeah,
part of the
it
goal.
goes
You
where it
were
goes.
aiming
It goes
at
where
the
it
goal.
goes.
Now if he hits it with his left, like he normally does, maybe that could have gone in.
He was just aiming at the goal. That's it.
Just to keep the keeper off guard, like you can catch him napping.
So I'll get this out of the way here. The big negative on this game is PC's late yellow card that he did not have to do, because now he misses the RGV match. We don't know if Abu's going to be back. We've heard, Twitter rumors that, hey, 7 to 10 days possibly, but we'll see if they're. But Coach Kano says, yeah, the own goal should be called like baseball. Tie goes the runner. Never extremely why how they make the official call on those. So
Spoiler alert: in baseball, the tie does not actually, in fact, go to the runner. So that's
Yeah, it
one
does.
of those baseball myths. No, it does. It never has. No,
it's one of those
that was
unwritten rules that's just.
It's not even underwritten. Basically, how it's called on the field, that's how it is. If you can't overturn it, if there's not enough evidence to overturn, it's how it's called on the field. That's it. There's no tie to the runner. That is.
Bar.
That's what we need.
No, well, I mean, yeah, it would be nice if we had obvious VAR. What they need to do, and the same thing, what they need to do in the NHL is they need to have a review, but they need to have a time limit on the review. If you can't decide if it was one way, if you can't overturn it within a certain amount of time, then you shouldn't be able to overturn it. If you have to look at it and look at it and look at it and then overturn it, no.
Can you imagine VAR like in some of these USL stadiums with the horrible camera? Like some of them, it's like the camera's like all like who knows what's going on.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Now you're losing points here. Don't let the facts get in the way of a great saying. P.S. Keep the profile pic, Rafa.
Who also says don't let the facts get in the way. A certain
we're not going there. It's too early.
Yeah, a certain blonde-haired, small-handed
statistics for this match here. Possession 65 for Las Vegas, 35 for SAFC. We had 14 shots. They had 8. We had 6 on target. They had 3. We had 14 fouls. They had 9. We had 1 big chance missed. They didn't have any. 9 shots in the box. 22 clearances to 19, 15, 17. So to me, it was a pretty standard SAFC. They got the 2-goal lead, and you wouldn't have known that there was a change in the back lineup just on how the defense played with, Carter Manley going out, but Jasser Abdul Salam stepped in great, and then Jordy DeLim came in for the center back role and did a little bit of help. I do think that they kept Maloney back a little bit further when that happened, just to kind of give him a little bit more protection for obvious reasons. But I thought Shannon did well, although, Rafa, he had some concerns about Shannon and his shoulder. And then, of course, Manley, I think it was
hamstring.
It looked like
hamstring issue.
Yeah, it was right in front of us. It looked like a hamstring.
So,
yeah, that's
thoughts
what
on. Oh, go ahead.
That's kind of what I was saying. That we had the back line needed some help, so the midfield kind of sat back and helped out the back line. And that's basically what helped. It's just the midfield being just strong as ever without a boot, which is insane. So
well, you saw PC drop up a little bit more on that on that second half, but he should have been a lot smarter in not getting that yellow card. But
Unlike other teams, we can protect the lead. I'll just leave it at that, Colorado Springs.
El Paso.
So
There's a lot of them.
In the same game. Awful.
Yes. That was a crazy game. So
Was not
I told Edson 8:15. Let me see if I. So, any thoughts that you guys had on these two matches before we get into RGV?
took care of
I'd say
business as they should have. Go ahead.
Yeah, they did with the substitute lineup. I mean, to me, it's like it just shows the character of the team, the fact that they can persevere even in situations where like there's some subs. I mean, in all fairness, too, there's a few nervy moments. Like one time when they passed it and Farr made that save, I was like, dang, that could have been a disaster. But outside of that, I mean, it was pretty typical, pretty clinical. And we're kind of, it's sad to say we're getting spoiled with the results. We need to kind of appreciate the fact that like sometimes like as the USL goes, like, you know.
I think the thing. I was going to say, just gave kudos to the bench players, because when you make a sub, we don't drop level of play. It's still right up there, and you're going to give that kudos to the coaching staff and the players working hard. And is, like I said, the next man up takes care of business with all the lineup changes made. So you just got to give props for that.
So do we want to address?
I'm sorry. Hold on. Hey, the biggest thing that happened between the Loudon match, which was the tying match for the all-time season wins, and then the Vegas match, which broke the record for team records, for the team record and wins in a season. That's the biggest news.
Yes.
Well, is that the biggest news?
I think that's
because you have to admit, after that game, there were whispers of a certain player being back in San Antonio.
As a historic thing, this is the most successful winning season. Yeah, I get it. But this is a historic season. This is the best season SAFC's ever had.
Yes.
Arguably, except for 2014, this is the best season in San Antonio soccer history. So, and it's still being written. And we'll see if it's the best season in USL history. We'll I guess regular season, but
so
we'll figure that out later.
I'll ask you guys this question here, because Rafa asked me this question at the match. If San Antonio doesn't win it, is it now a disappointment? I said that they have to get to the finals. If you lose in the Western Conference Finals, then yeah, I would say it's a little bit disappointing, because you didn't advance further than what you had last year, despite all the success.
And at home too.
No, YES, yes, absolutely it is. Like, seriously, it's gotten to the point where, like, not that you expect it, things can happen in knockout soccer, but I mean, you have to, like, after this season, how would that not?
Because San Antonio's going all in, and I think we're going to see that possibly this week with a possible player announcement coming in.
I know I need to wear my socks.
The cheat code.
I need to wear my socks. Yeah.
I mean, you're rolling the dice on here, and you can't lose at home in the Western Conference Final. You just can't. Now the final, whether it's Louisville, Tampa,
Memphis, you have to put.
Memphis,
I don't believe Memphis, but Memphis is a team that you can't ignore.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a dogfight.
I was going to say
we can't ignore San Diego either.
Indianapolis, like I said, Louisville and Tampa have the experience being in a final.
Mm-hmm.
So that's understandable, but it's kind of like make or break here for this season, because this is the time to do it.
Oh shoot, he is here. Hold on 1 second here. What's up, Edson?
How's it going, everybody? How's everything at the 210?
Doing well here. There is one question here, and it was a question that I was going to ask, but Gary Stevens says, who starts in midfield this week with PC out and possibly Abu? And hopefully Manley isn't out a month like before, and Dylan looked gas at the end of the game. So those are 3 points. I'll admit, Rafa can admit here, I was hating on Dylan this last match. Dude, and it's just the dude couldn't do anything right for me. And I know
he's in a different role.
No, I know that.
So it's different.
But that's
Dylan's been more of that
Dylan's
winger,
doing what Beckford
especially
should
with
be doing.
especially with Connor Maloney sitting back. He's kind of filling that winger role. He's not used to being a winger, and also this entire season he has worked his ass off.
And that's why I feel
not-
bad. And I told Rafa this.
Yeah,
Do
You
not
made a good
slight.
point.
We are not a podcast. We are not a podcast that slights JD at all. The dude's
No,
a king.
like Harry made a good
so
point at the game
let's support our king.
about Dylan playing the central forward position and having Patino and Adidron on the wing since they're
That's
fast.
what I want to do.
Yeah.
Or DeLim can fill in. He's like a Swiss Army knife. He's Okendo of our team.
Well, we needed him in the back line this game.
Well, what's interesting is we may have a player that can play that central 10 role that might be added to the roster, possibly.
Yep.
Possibly.
If Paco's let him go.
So what's up, Edson?
Not much, guys. Can anybody send a rope down here? It's kind of lonely here at the bottom.
No,
Are you at the bottom? I could have sworn I saw a tweet from you that said you were in first place.
I did
if
see
we're-
that. It was upside down. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was
in
gonna say I couldn't tell if your
maybe.
new studio was in an attic or a basement with your tweet, so I'm kind of confused at that one.
It
But
is
this
a-
is the first time I
nice-
get to see the new studio. I like
It's
it.
the
I
nicest
like it.
studio in the USL. Like I've heard that on the podcast, the Striker podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rumor.
Thank you.
Some are saying.
And
Some are
please
saying.
check out the Striker podcast on YouTube, and you're on Spotify, Google Play. What's the Apple?
Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcast,
App Store.
It's everywhere. Also, if you can subscribe to the Striker, I know it's leaning more MLS-ish for that here, but to support Edson, to support Jonathan, support J Rod out in El Paso, and assuming that Fort Worth is coming aboard next year, possibly somebody up there, but we will see if Fort Worth actually makes it next year, because still no announcements, so we'll see. Edson, I have some nice little stats here for you.
All right, let's hear it.
I thought you're gonna like these here. So number one, last 10 games versus San Antonio RGV, 7 wins for San Antonio, 2 draws, 1 RGV win. But to me, the more amazing one on this scenario, going back to 2019, which is 13 match, there's only been one game where neither team where one team hasn't scored. Every other game has had at least 1-1, or multiple goals.
2-1.
So, which if you go back to the start of this series, it was the opposite, where a team would get blanked and the other team would win 1-0 along those lines here. Now those were the years that RGV was winning the Derby, since San Antonio found some offense, which is going to be my first question to you, using Royce's things there, that transition. What's up with the RGV offense? The defense, I think most everybody would agree, especially if you follow USL tactics, probably upper third overall in the league. But the offense is what's letting you down.
Especially in Death Valley.
Yeah. So the way I see it, to me, I think this offense just doesn't click when it comes to the strikers. It's like they don't seem to know where to be located on the field, like inside the box to receive crosses or to try to open up the play. The matches where Frank Lopez wasn't playing, whether it was Adolfo Hernandez or Frank Gaviria, with Adolfo Hernandez is the striker that usually tends to be stuck in the middle of the box, but either the crosses don't get to him, or frankly, he's just not there at the correct location to be able to get a good shot. And if he does get a shot, it's usually been wide. I think Adolfo Hernandez only had 1 goal, right? And with Frank Gaviria, he's more of that striker that loves to kind of float around to the wings. So what happens is when that happens is Gaviria floats outside, but there's nobody inside to take his position or to cover his position there. I think the best we've seen out of RGV offensively was obviously the time when Frank Lopez was not injured. And unfortunately, in this past game, Frank got injured again. He pulled his leg. It was barely what, the 41st minute of the first half, and he pulls a hammy or whatever, and he has to be subbed out. And you had to play with Dylan Borjak, who isn't really a true number 9, right? So that's how desperate or that's how dire the situation is, where Wilmer apparently doesn't seem to be trusting Gaviria or Adolfo to be that number 9, and has to kind of bring in a winger to be able to cover for your injured number 9. Outside of that, like I said, most of the goals this season have been from our midfielders and our defenders, right? But when you have to force your defenders to not only defend, but also to attack, that's not really a good sign. You burn them out. And, a lot of the times from what I've seen, like mostly like in the home matches where I can kind of see everything from the press box, RGV is able to create opportunities to score. They're able to create a lot of opportunities. The problem is, it seems like once they get in front of a position to be able to get a shot on, it seems like they don't have enough confidence in themselves to be able to get the shot. In the beginning of the season, you saw a lot of long shots from Emilio Icaza. Now it seems like he's hesitating a lot and tries to go all the way into the box and try to find an opportunity there. Or when he does get a shot, it's not at the it doesn't have the power that we're used to seeing from Emilio Icaza. So in that aspect, I truly believe that it's a mental issue. But when it comes to the true strikers, I definitely believe they're not a good fit for Wilmer Cabrera's tactics at this moment, or they just can't seem to gel with the rest of their teammates. And I know I asked Wilmer this a couple of weeks ago at a press conference, and he pretty much went on saying, well, it's because they came in late and they're barely, getting used to their teammates, and, in South Texas. Yes, but then again, Wilmer Cabrera brought it upon himself for preparing this team super late. I mean, you already had decent pieces from last season with Elvis Amo, with Christian Sorto. As much as I complained last season that their finishing wasn't great, I'd take last year's performance from Elvis Amo at this moment compared to Gaviria and Adolfo Hernandez. And as good as or as decent as RGV's defense could be, because they are the 5th best defense in the Western Conference. If you can't score the goals, what's the point? Even Eric Pimentel in press conference said, yes, we possess the ball, we dominate the games, we have a lot of chances, but the point of the game of soccer is to score goals. And if we cannot score goals, we cannot put ourselves in a situation to get ourselves some really, really good, the 3 points basically. And this past game against Sacramento, I mean, they almost had the 3 points in the bag, but the offense just couldn't generate anymore. And they got pushed back by Sacramento, especially when you bring in Rodrigo Lopez. Wilmer doesn't make the necessary subs to counteract the inclusion of Rodrigo Lopez. He doesn't make his first substitution until the 84th minute, when almost all the players are probably already gassed because they're chasing the ball. And then stoppage time, you leave Roro unmarked to run inside the box, beat Wahab Akwe to the ball. And Akwe's tall, Rodrigo Lopez is not. How can you explain how easily Rodrigo Lopez was able to get to that ball first and score the goal. Like I said, the defense is not bad. It's decent, as John Morrissey has said many times on Twitter. But it's those mental lapses, that one mistake that they make, and that's been the difference. When RGV makes a mistake, the other teams pounce. When other teams make a mistake, more often than not, RGVFC cannot pounce.
Royce, I know you got to leave in about 10 minutes or so we'll go to you first for your questions that you have for Edson and anything, and then we'll go to Rafa and Robert.
So real quick, yeah, I mean, you mentioned putting the team together late. I don't know where that came from. I do know I did see some comments that I guess players getting multi-year, and this is kind of an interesting thing that coincides with SAFC, that other players are looking for better contract due to the CBA now. Players are looking for better contracts, longer contracts, multi-year deals, and RGV just may not be offering that. We know that's a big thing that a lot of us fans were complaining about, that SAFC, they wouldn't necessarily lowball. They were kind of the wages were about on, but they were reluctant to give those multi-year deals. Well, they've changed that now. They have offered, I think, half of their players now are on multi-year deals. So that's an interesting thing. Do you see RGV changing that to try to attract more players to the team? And number two, the four of us are very familiar with the forward that you guys have on the roster. We just haven't seen him on the field yet, and we're not sure if he's still hurt, in that being in Ollie Wright. We're not sure if he's still hurt, if he's just not getting PT. What's going on with that?
Okay, so let's go with. I'm going to go with the first one. The first question first. So you're asking about the multi-deal contracts. If I think that RGV will be doing that, I think at this point they kind of have to, even if Alonso Cantu doesn't want to. I have no idea. Like, I honestly have no idea what Alonso Cantu is thinking, or what goes on behind the walls, right? As far as ownership is concerned, right? He's always been a very private individual. He doesn't like to come out in the public eye. But from what I heard from a source with what happened in preseason, they figuratively got caught with their pants down when the CBA was passed. So once the CBA passed, all these big teams like Phoenix Rising, like Colorado Springs Switchbacks, like the Miami FC, they started coming and getting our players. They offered them contracts. A lot of them, according to the source, a lot of them were waiting for RGVFC to respond to that situation, to that contract. They heard nothing, so they decided to go with the team that offered them the contract. Now, all of a sudden, you're left without a Mo. You're left without Sorto. Yeah. And so now that you have what, 4 weeks left before the beginning of the preseason. So now you have to go and try and get players from League One, players that didn't have a lot of minutes in other teams. So instead of having a really competitive team, you're pretty much starting from scratch all over again and starting to gel to create a play style on these new players. I think like 85% of the squad is completely new. So
right. the honestly, land of misfit toys. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I honestly, I think they kind of have to, if they want to remain competitive in the USL Championship. But the biggest question to me is not if ownership can do that, because this isn't 2016 anymore, like I mentioned. But will Wilmer stop taking the offseason lightly? And if he wants to enjoy his vacation like everybody should, he deserves a vacation, leave things prepared before you go on vacation, so that by the time you come back, you already have prospective players either contacted or physically signed, and not have to kind of rush like they did in 2020 or in 2021 and again in 2022. I made a joke on my show a couple of times where I said that Wilmer Cabrera was taking the offseason like I was taking my college career, where it's like leave everything to the last second and hope everything goes well. It went well in 2021. It went well for me in college. but it's not going to work all the time. And I think this season it has proven it to him. Now, as far as the second question regarding Ollie Wright, from what I know is that Ollie Wright is ready to come back and get some minutes. I'm not 100% sure if he is going to be at least on the bench against San Antonio FC. I think it would be a good storyline, to be honest. But he is past his injury that he received in preseason against Austin FC. So that's pretty much all I've got. I've managed to recompile about Ollie Wright. I know he's very eager to come back and kind of show what he can bring to the table from what I've seen from his social media posts. So I guess we'll see what happens. But with the inclusion now of Jonas Jelberg, I think it'll be interesting to see how Wilmer might take this Ollie Wright situation, because you have to remember that Jonas Jelberg already knows how to play under Wilmer Cabrera. Ollie Wright doesn't. So I think in this case, given the equal circumstances, if both players being 100% match fit and eligible to play, I have a feeling Wilmer Cabrera would give the nod first to Jonas Jelberg rather than Ollie Wright.
Royce, did you have any other questions or your final thought? I know you mentioned you had a hard out at 8:30, so that way the little guy can get ready for school.
Yeah, got to give the kid a bath so we can stay on the school schedule, because we don't want to mess that up on the second day of school. That would be terrible. No, we'll see what happens. To sum up, Edson, it sounds like RGV Nation has turned into procrastination. Haha, there's my dad joke. But no, bad. I know, bad. I'll be here all night. Not really. I gotta go. But that's it. We'll see what happens this weekend. It'll be interesting. Looking forward to SAFC hoisting the Copa Tejas for the first time at the game. Should be a good time, and hopefully we see a lot of y'all out there. So I'm out. But y'all finish the show strong. All right. We'll see y'all
later, Royce.
Rafa, any questions that you have? Robert stepped away for a minute.
Yeah, Edson, do you think maybe there'll be a change in the head coaching staff after this season? Will Elmer survive this with all this procrastination, getting players? Do you see the ownership maybe, you know what, it's time's up. Maybe we do need to go a different direction, bring someone more responsible that's going to bring in the players, develop them, and then be able to compete, for not only for the playoffs, but again into like the Western Conference final and so forth?
That's a very interesting question, because you have to remember that you have, with Wilmer Cabrera, you have head coach Wilmer and GM Wilmer. Mm-hmm. Okay. I personally don't have a big issue with Coach Wilmer. I think overall he's building a tactical foundation from the back to the front. I've always liked, for example, I've always been used to with Tigres under Tuca Ferretti, as much as at the end I kind of like blasted Ferretti for holding the reins back on the team. But in the beginning, when he had more humble beginnings in his third term, he started the team from the back to the front. Right, a good solid defense, and then from then on, we'll just add the pieces as years goes by. And I have a feeling that Wilmer Cabrera is trying to do that, establishing a solid defensive line, and may the pieces follow as time continues. My biggest gripes is with GM Wilmer because of the timing issues, and of course, the fact that I want to best describe it as the Houston Texans under what's his face. He was also head coach and GM for the Texans before.
Brian.
Brian.
Yes, and I think it's a similar situation here, where it's like head coach Wilmer can only do so much with what GM Wilmer gives him, and with the offensive situation, I mean, as much as you want to make excuses or complain about it, you yourself brought them in. You saw something, you scouted something from them that thought might be beneficial to you, and it turns out that it's not working for you. For me, given to the situation of how much money Wilmer is getting paid, according to some chit chat here and there. That's the reason why he has those two jobs, because from what I was told, it was the only way to kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Justify the high wage that Wilmer was asking. To me, I would personally think of get a GM, try to convince Wilmer to just stick with the head coaching job, and if he just doesn't want that, try to find something else. Because I'm sure that with the money that you're paying Wilmer, you can probably get a decent GM at the USL level and a decent head coach. I'm not expecting.
But you've already got a good head coach on the bench with Gershon, with Coach Echeverria. I thought with what he had from the Dynamo years, I thought he overperformed. Now I know that's kind of hard to say because results weren't there, but his teams were always competitive. I don't hear the same issues that you had with his teams compared to the issues with Wilmer. We'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. And I agree as well. I agree as well that I think Gerson Echeverria did an excellent job with the material he was handed by the Houston Dynamo. Honestly, I think it's a big question of whether he wants the job again. And at the end of the day, when you don't have officially a club president, because once Ram Patel left, there's nobody pick up the slack for him. Basically, Wilmer is officially GM, head coach, and unofficially club president too. But when you have a coach, but you don't have a GM, then who's going to be in charge of making sure that everything else within the technical aspect, runs smoothly for RGV? So I think at the end of the day, if they do decide to part ways with Wilmer, there's going to be a lot of work for Alonso Cantu, who doesn't know a lot about soccer, and that's the biggest thing as well. He's not a soccer person, and he doesn't have soccer savvy people around him to help him make decisions. So,
other questions that you have, Rafa, or are we going to move on to Robert and his interesting questions?
Move on with Robert. Yeah, because I was just curious about that because for him to do all that, it does take a toll running it. It's kind of like when I ran my club team. I was coach, GM, and VP. It takes a lot.
And there's a saying in Spanish that says el perro de las dos tortas pierde las dos, and that's like he's managed. I feel like Wilmer's trying to balance too many hats, and he's not 100% focused on one specific one. So
that's kind of what my question is. I'm piggybacking off what you're talking about. Like, how committed is the front office? Because you can have a GM, you can have a president, you can have whatever, but if the front office isn't on board, if they're not allowing, if they're hamstringing them in terms of finances, because let's be honest, it all comes down to money at the end of the day. So The reality is, are they, because maybe he's alluding to it in that press conference, I'm working with what I have and doing what I can, almost like indirectly, like calling out the front office because they're not providing him the resources to get the players. Because the last 2 years, all of a sudden at the last minute, like you said, in 2021, it worked. This 2022, and it kind of saddens me as a SAC fan because I want to see a competitive RGV team as much as I want you guys to lose every game. The key the key to it is I want you guys when you come to our house, like it's a competitive match. Like it leads to
make it a challenge, pretty much.
Exactly. Like to me, it's almost like I feel like they gave up, almost like Frank Lopez's commitment to the game. Another question. Like after OKC, I saw him. He was a little bit of a hefty Frank. Versus when he was here, he kind of like, to me,
likes the tacos.
Like, he can do it. He's a good player. He has skills. Don't get me wrong, but he just didn't seem committed. When I saw him, I was like, man. Anyways.
You're not the first one. You're not the first person to tell me this. My dad, who goes to almost all the home games when he's not working, he told me, I think it was like 3 home games ago, that when he saw Frank Lopez warming up, he seemed, to him, right, this is his interpretation, he seemed like he felt like he was too big for this club. in that aspect. Like he didn't want to be there. Like I'm just gonna go with the motions. I mean, that's my dad's interpretation. I didn't see him because I was already up in the press box, so I can't vouch 100% for what he said. But his interpretation of his body language made him feel like he's kind of checked out.
I can see that because
That's what I felt too when I saw him.
when Frank
coming
was
from
here,
Galaxy.
when Frank was here, when he's on, and he's got the skill and the ability, but there's a reason why he's never made the move back up to MLS or even been considered by MLS. And I think it's the upstairs part. Just that dedication, that drive, and I think he's got the skill. But yeah, just there's just something that when it comes to Frank Lopez, that whether it was here in San Antonio, whether it was in Oklahoma City, whether it's in RGV, whether it was with the Galaxy, he's almost one of those players that burns his welcome. We'll just say I'm not saying he's bad in the locker room because I don't know that by anything, but when you speak to the fans of all the teams that he's left, they don't say horrible things about him, but they don't say good things about him, if that makes sense.
Like they're not sad that they saw him go.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, he has a reputation for a reason. I remember a South Texas Derby match. I think it was 2017 or 2018, where San Antonio was winning 2-0, and Frank Lopez, really stupidly, to be honest, because I think the foul was called in favor of San Antonio, and he thought it was called against him, and I think he badmouthed the ref or something, and that gave him the red card. And it's like, that's where where a player checks out, where he starts making all these dumb decisions that might. And it's worse when it's not even because of a tackle or something. It's just because he just loses his head, loses his concentration, and lets his anger get the better of him instead of thinking about what's better for his club, for his team.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because like, what team would loan their top scorer to us in the middle of the season for no? They're literally loaning him to us that year. He was their leading scorer out of the blue. There was something up with that. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah,
there's some question marks you got to answer.
But as far as front office is concerned, I feel like as far as the business side, I think they're starting to make some improvements, not huge improvements, but I think there been improvements that have been overall positive. I think they've gone with the Houston Dynamo way of thinking of making, having cheap tickets, cheap concessions. How the Dynamo have their 713 deal. We have $5 tickets, $2 hot dogs, $2. I think I don't know if it's beer or something. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. And I feel like the fans have actually shown up. I know that this last game against Hartford, I think it was like 5,000 some reported attendance.
That was a crazy match, though. You guys had 32 shots and didn't score a freaking goal.
That's nuts.
I think you only had 8 on target as well out of that 32 shots.
Yeah, and Las Vegas, so against Hartford it was 27, against Las Vegas it was 32 with 8 shots on target. All 8 of those were saved by the keeper. So, but as far as the money is concerned, I think Alonso Cantu, as much as Ron Patel mentioned right after the announcement of the independence, I do recall that Ron Patel mentioned that Alonso Cantu was committed financially to making this team competitive. I think at the end of the day, his actions after last season have kind of proven that he's kind of wanting to take things on the cheap and see if maybe. So the worst part is, and I was actually thinking about this today at work, where it's like we became what we complained about from the Houston Dynamo about building a team on the cheap. We complained about that when we were under the Houston Dynamo. Now that we've achieved independence, to see if we're going straight down that same path.
Yeah, so RGB attendance-wise, you guys are averaging 3,700. Biggest crowd's 51. Lowest is 25. To be fair, though, and this was going to be kind of my dig at San Antonio FC, We're only averaging 5,700, and I know they announced 42. Well, we'll round up 4,300 for the Loudon match on a Wednesday, and 5,500 against Vegas. I know we're down on average $1,000, or pardon me, not $1,000, 1,000 people per game. We're back on par with the last years of the Scorpions where they weren't very good, and this is for a first place team in USL Championship. So it's lower league soccer isn't a money making thing in a closed system. For that here. So, but from my following on RGV in social media, is the biggest frustration is when you guys are getting the good crowds, the performance or the results or just the has not been there, and I think it's I know you follow a lot of the same people I do. It's left them frustrated on how they can get RGV to take that next step.
Yeah, it's really frustrating, and especially when you have fans that barely came into the mix of following the teams from last year. I actually had a kind of like a conversation with a friend on Twitter who's a huge Tigres fan. He's from Monterrey, so he's like he knows his soccer, right? And he mentioned, like he said, this is embarrassing. Like this team, the way that they got dismantled and the way they're playing now, it's embarrassing where they're at right now. And a lot of people have mentioned, you know what? I'm actually thinking of not renewing my season tickets next year. I feel like at the end of the day, you gotta have both. You gotta have good off the field, marketing campaigns, but your product on the field has to back up what your marketing team does. And unfortunately for RGV, right now our 11 plus players on the field just aren't cutting it to make the fans, proud and eager to come back for the next home game.
You should have a promotion where they get to keep the balls that go in the crowd.
Those are $100 balls. Come on,
I'm just no, like 32. It's $3,200 right there.
I think for RGV, and I expressed this to Edson at the start of the season, and this is where I think Edson or where Wilmer can get some heat, is because RGV had momentum going into the season. They came off a successful playoff year, the first year as an indie club. And due to vacation, whatever the scenario was, budget, whatever, the front office side of RGV dropped the ball. And RGV's always been a club, and probably will always be a club, that runs thin on the marketing because it's combined with the Vipers on basketball and stuff. And you may be able to correct me, but I think basketball is the preferred. So here's the thing.
So apparently, and this is something from somebody else mentioned to me. So RGV Vipers actually contracts their marketing to a third party, which is why their marketing has been so good. Whereas for the Toros, their marketing is done in-house. So that's why the huge disparity between the marketing levels between both teams. So, but here's the thing you mentioned about dismantling of the team in this offseason. Wilmer Cabrera, at the final day of preseason, we had a press conference, and I asked him why he dismantled the team. And he mentioned that while the team was good last year, he felt that it wasn't the team, the type of team that he wanted to see in the long term. He said that he felt that what the players that he got this season were a better fit for his idea for like in 5 years, whether he's there or he's not there, and that he was looking to build upon this particular foundation that he brought in for this season. While I do kind of agree with the fact that, last season, a lot of these players who want to like, okay, let's grab what we can and see if we can make it fit. And it turned out he made them fit really, really well, especially at the end of the season. It's just frustrating how even with that they managed to let players like Rodrigo Lopez and Elvis Amo go so easily, and on the defensive slide, letting go.
Asokar, dude, he left the Oakland. It's like
So with Asokar, it was alone though, and
but to me, it's like are they committed or not? Like, is it a situation? Is that a corporate answer? Is Cabrera in the press conference saying that because that's what he's been dealt, or is that, to me, it's like how. I mean, what's the backstory? We will never know, but like behind the scenes, is that literally like, is he saying that because he's been dealt these cards and he's going to roll with them? He's a corporate guy and he's going to say what he's got to say, or is that legitimately what he felt?
I honestly think it's legitimate what he felt. I've never felt like Cabrera be a corporate guy. The way he's handled himself sometimes in press conferences, I think it shows that Cabrera is really not a guy that's going to be reading stuff by the script. And the fact that game that Harry inferred about a couple minutes ago, where Wilmer Cabrera basically between the lines and even I think pretty much said that one of the reasons why we're in this situation is because the ownership wasn't giving him enough resources, financial resources, to build a competitive team, to bring in the best players in the USL, and that they had to do with what they had.
And that's my thing. That's what I meant more, the budget. He had budget constraints, so he's gonna play the like not so much that he's the type of guy that's gonna like say that, but instinctively. But like, if he's limited in budget, he's gonna like toe the line and he's gonna say what he's got to say, like to keep both parties happy.
So before I let you go, Edson, I know you like Liga MX. I know Rafa likes Liga MX. Do you want to talk about how your team's in third place and his team's in ninth place at this time? He's a Club America guy. You're, from my understanding, you're a Tigres guy.
Yes, sir. So I think the fact of the matter is, I'm just going to be honest here, I think Tigres is a good team, but the problem is they haven't backed up their performances against the top teams. You saw what happened with Pachuca. They had the situation. Yeah, and not only that, they're having these issues with what's been like 4 or 5 straight games where Tigres have gotten themselves a red card. And against the lower level teams or the lower table teams, they managed to hold the 0 or managed to get the positive result even with a man down. But when you got teams that are on the top like Pachuca, I'm worried to see what's going to happen this Saturday against Monterrey, because I sure don't want to be made fun of by my sister and my parents. But I'm hoping. Yeah, I'm hoping that Miguel Herrera gets his act together with his club and kind of puts the reins on that in discipline. But I honestly think that with Club America, I think it's just a matter of time where Fernando Ortiz gets his club, gets his squad back to the places where they're pretty much pressured into always being, which is always competing for the top 3 positions in the Liga MX table. I mean, they didn't play bad against the top teams in the world, but it's just they just haven't been able to kind of reflect those performances against Liga MX. But I guess now that they're primarily focusing on the Liga, I think this is where you're just going to start seeing Club America on the rise. So.
And they showed it Saturday when they blew out Pumas.
I mean, when Pumas, their emblematic player is 40-some-year-old defender is like that doesn't
trying to play defense.
Yeah, so
yeah, I
What
think
about-
with Club America, like I said, they just sold a player Sanchez to Ajax, and and that's what Club America's been built. Because, like I said, I coach for them for their academy. They're just built to develop players and send them off to Europe, but they're expected to be in the top 3. They're supposed to basically kind of the same pressure like Real Madrid, Barcelona. You're expected to win like either La Liga or like Champions League. Then that's the mentality they have there. And like I said, hopefully, like I said, with Piojo, because he used to coach Club America, he basically imploded in that, and that's why he's over there with Tigres. And hopefully that doesn't happen with Tigres with the same thing. He doesn't implode, and then they have to kind of rebuild all that, because that's the situation he's been with when he used to be with us.
Mm-hmm. So is there any surprise with and I know it's early, 7 to 9 games in, but with Toluca leading Liga MX, is that kind of a surprise, or
No, to me, no. To me, no. While last season was a very horrible season for Toluca, you have to look at who they had on the bench as their coach. Ignacio Ambriz, one of the best coaches in recent years. He was getting that's one of the reasons why he was given an opportunity in Europe. It didn't pan out, so he's back. But in Liga MX, I think he's a top coach. He just needed his idea to be reflected by the kind of players that he could bring to the table. This past season, he still had leftovers from his predecessor. So now that he's managed to have an off season to train with them and to build it with the pieces that he felt closely reflect his system, now you're starting to see the fruits of that effort by Ignacio Ambriz.
And then Matt put this question on here, and Rafa, if you'll do the team name, because I'll just chop it up again. When do we find out the bid for Quintero? I know, from my understanding, SS&E submitted a bid. Have you guys heard of any approximate news of when that's going to be settled? I mean, whether Spurs Sports and Entertainment gets it or not, just. Have you guys heard any rumors? I know you guys follow Liga MX, a lot more than I do. And Robert, if you have any questions, we're doing Liga MX with Edson as opposed to Europe this week, because
I thought
I think they have to do it before the end of the year, I believe.
He was trying to buy it outright outside of SAFC, I heard.
But it makes sense for them to buy it, because now we have that Super Liga with MLS.
Oh, it's outside of Spurs Sports Entertainment?
That's what I heard. I heard Holt was trying to bid outside of the corporate thing.
Yeah, Holt's trying to buy it on his own. So if he's doing that, that means they're trying to bank in the money for that whole Superliga, losing out on the Austin thing. It makes perfect sense, because you got a lot of Liga MX fans here in San Antonio, and you probably steal a lot from Austin too.
That's the pipe dream, though, of it. And I guess if MLS opens that door and creates that kind of Super League, it'll be hard for CONCACAF to come back and say, "Hey, no, you can't have." Go ahead, Edson.
On that note, and this is because okay.
And I know there's ties in RGV as well on this as well. So
yeah,
if you put a team in RGV,
now that you mentioned that it's one of the interested parties is SSE. How will San Antonio fans take it? Because I know there was a lot of people that were saying that, or there were rumors going about that SSE was looking to get rid of San Antonio FC. If that does happen, or if it is confirmed that SSE is interested in buying Querétaro, how are the San Antonio fans gonna feel about that? I feel like they might be a little bit slighted.
It was Holt, though. It was Holt. It was outside of the corporate thing. He's trying to buy it himself.
The family, it's trying to put the bid by them, so it has nothing to do with the Spurs.
Yeah,
but
they're trying to do outside the corporate thing.
I think they understand. They understand that there's a big fan base here. Because one of the things I think SAFC does wrong as far as marketing, they don't market well.
It's not just us; it's RGV as well. Me and Edson's had this discussion before.
Yeah, they don't market well with our west side and south side, and that's where your soccer fans are at. Those are most of your Liga. Especially the game when we had who was the last team we had? Santos and
it was like San Luis.
Atlético San Luis.
Yeah,
well, that's when we played. But we had another Liga MX game. We had Santos and Tigres. That game was nearly a sellout.
Yeah, it was.
And
It was rowdy.
and so, there was a fight after the game.
It was
But-
rowdy.
But you can see that the fan base comes out. I even the game when they had the Alamo Dome games, when I saw the Club America versus Tigres, that game was sold out too in the Alamo Dome. So there's a fan base around here, and if the Holtz can play the cards right and get the bid, I know they're trying to bank on hopefully getting that team so they can do the Superliga, kind of spite Austin, because they'll steal a lot of those Austin FC fans who are Liga MX fans to come down here to watch.
But that's
some
if
of
they're
those.
able to move it to San Antonio.
And I think they have to, because I think Querétaro was told, I think they're not allowed to have that team anymore there because
Correct.
of what happened.
That's the whole reason why they're selling the franchise, to relocate it to a different
But
place.
if they're going to relocate it, I have a hard time believing, at least at this point, that they're going to move it to a team in the United States at this point.
And I find it highly improbable, because CONCACAF does have, obviously, with CONCACAF, money can buy anything. But
I was about to say money
in
talks.
theory,
Money talks.
en la Liga MX too,
Money
¿para qué nos
talks,
hacemos? ¿Para qué nos hacemos? En Liga MX también. In theory, in CONCACAF, you cannot have a team from another country playing in another country's league. The only exceptions have been the 3 Canadian teams in MLS, because at the time that they joined MLS, there was no Canadian First Division. Now there was, and I think that was one of the reasons why Ottawa Fury had their whole.
Well, that's from the Canadian. There's a whole different backstory, but that's the excuse that they used, was that even though there's still USL League 2 teams, there's WPSL teams, UWS teams that are in Canada that play in the United States. To me, the reason why I think it's going to be a possibility is because MLS and Liga MX have flirted. They've got the Leagues Cup coming up. They're heading towards a path of trying to combine, because MLS needs Liga MX and Liga MX needs MLS. Because Liga MX draws the TV viewing, the TV dollars, but from my understanding, in following other things, the financial availability here in the stateside and being able to attract those sponsors and the money to bring the money back down to Mexico.
It'd be nuts.
Is
You
something that
have like Univision, TV Azteca, they have the big. They got the big Telemundo too, because I think they do Chivas games.
Yes.
They have the Capital, Fox Sport, and I think even ESPN Deportes too is now digging into Liga MX. So the money's there, the big contracts are there, so it makes sense to have a team here, because you're gonna kill two birds with one stone, because you have the fan base and you have a market here, and then now you have rivalry games with Austin, Houston, Dallas. And then here would be with Monterrey and Tigres, because those regional Torreon there with Santos. So it makes perfect sense for this.
The question that I have for you, Edson, could you see RGV sneaking into it? Obviously not with you don't think that their marketplace is big enough to where you could attract, another lower level team, in Liga MX up to there? Like, for instance, Cancun as an example.
The problem is that right here in the Rio Grande Valley, I think the only uber rich person is Alonso Cantu.
Right.
And if he's having issues with investing with the USL Championship side, and he's one of those guys that I've been told that he refuses to have a partnership, because as far as I was told, some people reached out to Alonso Cantu for, to become partners in owning RGV, and he refused. So if he is like that, if that is true, then I feel like there's no way that RGV would be financially sustainable to try to take on as big of a project as this.
Any other final questions that you have for Edson, or Edson, did you have any questions for us? I know we've kind of, directed them all to you. I guess we'll give you the opportunity if you want to respond any to us.
I think the biggest one to me, I feel like one of the things that I noticed is that San Antonio has been really, really good defensively. They're the number one, I think, in the whole USL. But I know that Jonathan kind of mentions that the offense, while not as big as a problem as RGV's, but they still kind of have an issue with finishing. Do you all believe that this is going to be a low scoring match, or do you feel like this is going to be one of those games where, because it's a derby, everything gets left behind and it's going to be like a thriller?
It's going to be a 1-goal game, whether it's 2-1 or 3-2.
Yeah,
I think those are the scores that you're going to see. I don't
That's how
believe
we
it's going to be a
roll. That's how we
1-0.
play. Like every game's 1-0, 2-0, 3.
Unless we get in a roll like we did against was it Charleston, that
Monterey
we just
Bay.
couldn't. Monterey Bay, they have. I mean, we have the talent to do that, but the problem's been finishing. We've had some
Final
clear
third.
chances, but our defense is. We kind of took the same page with you guys. I think Marcina realized, especially going back to last season, building from the back wins you games, and I think he kind of took the same model with RGV and then also with OC too. And that's how OC won their championship, building the defense.
We're
I think he
susceptible
built
to
more of the spine, though, because if you go the back, PC, Abu in the middle, because through there.
Abu's out.
Right, but as far as how he built the team, though,
Oh yeah.
He built it, strong up the center. You could argue Patino, Dylan, so I think the middle is strong. To me, the weakness on SAFC, if you'd call it a weakness, is the sides at this point. Is the width. But no, to me, I think RGV scores this match just because, as I mentioned here, the last 13 matches, both teams have scored. There's only been one. And unless RGV's having one of those days that they can't hit the broadside of a barn, but typically against San Antonio, they magically find, a bike or, all sorts of crazy stuff that they have no business doing.
Yeah, but here's the thing. In past years, you had players that had the talent to put themselves in a situation where something like that. Right now, offensively, you've got pretty much a bunch of young kids that aren't necessarily, a veteran presence, or that have, the athleticism, like, let's say, Juan Carlos Azócar had and that bicycle kick. Most of your experience is in the midfield and in the defense, like you mentioned, building that spine. However, that spine doesn't extend to the striker position, and that's what worries me. So I honestly think I feel like it's going to be it's going to be a tight match,
Mm-hmm.
Now, my question to you, or my final question before I head out. Usually in the last couple of times that RGV has faced off against San Antonio has been a lot about using the high pressure against RGV. We talk about how RGV always loves to use the high pressure against their opponents, but San Antonio manages to outdo them. Is that something that you see week in, week out from San Antonio, or is that just something specifically tailored for RGV?
No, that's a constant because they did it the last game.
Yeah. They press until they get a goal or two, and then they the formation. It changes. They start to try to compact the back, make it difficult for you, and you press forward and you make mistakes, and then they come back with a counter.
I think the only game we didn't do was against San Diego because we were out without Patino. I think because when we went to a 3-5-2, so you can't really press there too much.
Mm-hmm.
When you add Patino into the mix with that three-headed monster, that's when you see a lot of the pressure when we play a 3-4-3. And I've seen it every time we play that. We've smothered teams, but we just need to finish.
Yeah, we're susceptible to a wonder goal. Like all of a sudden we'll press, we won't finish, and then someone can score on us. It's like crap. We have to open the game up. Like against San Diego, we open up. It opens up avenues and lanes, and all of a sudden we come exposed. We expose ourselves.
Is if RGV gets that goal early, then that opens the game up. But I will say this: if San Antonio scores, they've yet to lose this year.
It's like a boa constrictor. It's like we
Yeah.
score, and it's just like
Every
It
time
gets
we
worse
score,
and
we haven't lost.
it's worse and worse.
The only games we've lost is when we've been shut out.
But
But those are the
it'll
games
be
where we're missing 3 key players.
Mostly in California with the cow pastures. No comment.
well, Phoenix too. But yeah.
Sacramento, San Diego. There's like the ball doesn't roll; it bounces. I'm just saying.
But it'll be interesting. I know it's
Shout out to my boy.
Ollie. I would love to see
Right,
Ollie.
let's go. I love this guy. He's awesome.
Ollie's a great guy.
Hey, if you guys see Dr. Beckford, the Shane, tell him I said hi. We love him.
Well,
I don't. Well, I'll
Well,
just.
it's a long
never mind.
story.
That's another story. Another show.
We're already an hour and a half. We don't need to open up that can of worms. But no, Edson, it's always great to talk to you. Are you planning on coming up this week or no?
Unfortunately, no. We're gonna have to be at my day job. I have to come in for the next Saturdays to prepare for the new school year. So it is what it is. I would have loved to have gone, but
It's a long drive back when you lose. I've experienced it a couple of times.
you
So.
can come hold the cup.
yeah, I did that last year, and all I did was bring bad luck
That's all I got.
to the Toros.
Yeah,
I mean, if it isn't enough that I get like bullied by fans and people within the technical staff for the Edson curse. I don't want to add more fuel to the fire.
Hey,
say
get him
hello
off
to your dad. I like to say, every time he comes up, I try to say hi to him. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's super
So
nice.
hello to your dad, and congratulations on the new studio and the new house for that. Here looks great, especially the San Antonio FC
I was gonna say
in
the
back,
scarf
so.
makes a studio. We talked about that right there. That one on the far, the second to the left is the best. We should get you some more of those. We'll get you some flags. I'll hook you up.
I actually got, I think it was like one of the Apples coach Jerson, like he I don't know if you saw the tweet, Harry, where he was like, it's like, what do you have? Like, would you wear a Rayados scarf? And then at training, like he just starts, he goes to Wilmer, like Wilmer and Jerson come in the golf cart, right? They go into training. We were interviewing, I think, Robert Coronado, and they get off the golf cart, and Jerson talks and goes to Wilmer, and he's like, hey, so Wilmer, would you wear a Deportivo Cali shirt? And Wilmer's like, for why? Why are you asking me this? It's like, no, I'm just asking you, like, would you wear a Deportivo Cali shirt? Keep in mind that both of them played for América de Cali. So Wilmer's like, no. And he's like, because I know somebody, and I'm not going to say who it is, but he knows who I'm talking about, was wearing a San Antonio scarf, and I was like, no, it was given to me by my friend Harry, right? And we exchanged the scarf. And he's like, no, I'm not talking to you. And they just kept on going, but it's just pure banter. But yeah,
That's awesome.
no,
That's
it's
awesome.
just it's a symbol of friendship between Harry and I of multiple years, and I'm not ashamed to have it on display.
Edson, it's been fun. I don't know if you want to hang around for final comments or not. If you need to bail, you can bail. Final comments tend to be a little bit wild sometimes. Last week kind of went a completely different direction than I anticipated, but I don't think that's going to be the case this week. Rafa probably goes something with Real Madrid, which I believe you're also a fan of. So maybe we should also expand, to the Real Madrid minute here and have 2 minutes instead of the 1 minute. But
the Real Madrid minute.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't know, but
hey, Barcelona was able to field players this week, so that's a positive. And
they sold everything and their soul
until the checks bounce. Until the checks bounce.
Yeah, exactly.
allegedly.
I'm still surprised they haven't sold the city of Barcelona for credit.
They're gonna have to buy it from the king, I think.
Exactly.
Jeez. How long is that going to last them? That's going to be the big thing. because-
Jurgen Klopp made a comment about it. He thought it was an embarrassing. I think even the guys from ESPN Plus said this is the most embarrassing situation that this club put themselves in, especially with Frankie De Jong not getting paid. I mean, you give him a contract, you need to honor that contract, and
yeah.
I think they're doing him dirty. All this is going to backfire on them, and who knows what's going to happen. You know, imagine that they did create the Superliga and Barcelona would have been in crap.
Well, that's my question to you guys is at some point the total's going to come due.
Mhm.
What's going to happen to Barcelona? Does La Liga have the cojones to send them down, or something has to happen, right? Or you think they're just going to get away?
Like, seriously,
they're not the only team. I think they're not the only team that was. I think Sevilla was in the same situation as well. But you know, I think they have to make La Liga's got to make an example out of them. They have to because they can do this.
I disagree with you in this, and this has nothing to do with what is supposed to be right or wrong.
Mhm.
But the reason I disagree with you is because at the end of the day, you already lost your entertainment value. You lost Messi, you lost Cristiano Ronaldo. You can't afford to limit that Barcelona even further, because Barcelona and Real Madrid is basically all you got. And so if they lose Barcelona to financial troubles, or if they make an example out of them and relegate them due to financial woes, the La Liga would be shooting themselves in the foot, to be honest, and they can't afford to do that, especially with so much competition. Yeah,
it'll be like the Bundesliga. There's one team, and there's like everybody else.
Yeah, but there's a difference though. Italy did that though a couple of times with a couple of teams that where they penalized them. It hurt them short term, but for the long term, it's made them more healthier and better. That's the only reason why I wonder if. Because La Liga is kind of, to me, in kind of an odd fit. Yes, they're not on beIN Sports anymore. They're on ESPN Plus mainly. So before their next TV contract, to me, I think you're better to get Barcelona, hey, burn it down and then rebuild it back up. So that way when your next TV contract comes, assuming, let's say they drop them down to, second division, just like, what was it, Rangers, I think, over in the Scottish Premier League.
Happened to Juventus on the Calcio.
Yes,
they dropped them down for the same thing.
I thought it was for match fixing.
It's all money.
True,
but to me, I think for the longevity of La Liga, you've got to do it. Now, I also question Real Madrid, but Rafa says Real Madrid's a little, not quite to that level. Obviously, just like with any super club, there's fudging of numbers. I think that goes across no matter whatever league.
Knows he's a good an account.
They got oil money.
I mean, he's got a lot of. He's got a lot of capital. I think what they do is like a lot of those players that send them out on loans, but they get good returns coming back, so they have a good budget. So he knows what he's doing, and he was just caught off guard. I know he made a comment about the way Barcelona did their things is like he wants them to be competitive because, like I said, they just feed off each other. But this is it's just gone ridiculous when you start going into players play. I think they even still owe money to Bayern Munich. I think for Coutinho or a couple other players around. So I think they need to get their act together. They do need to get punished for a little bit, but they can always rebuild and come back. And then that way they can keep the rivalry, make it strong, because they also have, I think, games. They're gonna play games here in the United States. I think this year, some of the La Liga games. So it's interesting how they're gonna be able to market them with that, and can they afford the plane ticket to go over here?
Robert, any final thoughts since we've covered the Real Madrid minute here?
No, I'm just excited about like I said, Ollie coming back. He's my boy. I like that guy a lot. So like I said, I'm looking forward to Saturday, and let's get 3 more points.
So want to thank everybody for tuning in and for listening. Like I said here, and this is a longer one that we've been doing but we don't get Edson on but twice a year now.
It's with
maybe
the fancy
3
studio.
times.
With the fancy
if
studio,
we're
he
lucky.
limits his exposure.
You need to get Edson on the,
You got to get on the
Right.
list. You got to get on the list.
get him on the high school talk too. Come November.
Well, Edson's too good for high school, So he he's Liga MX and RGVFC. He
Nice.
hasn't.
Nice.
Jacob is the one that will get high school.
Nice.
For that he's I don't. I guess I should check in with Jacob to see if he's going to be calling games. I know he did a lot of volleyball last year for that here. But speaking of Jacob here, Edson, you want to highlight your show and kind of where it's at? I miss it being live. I won't lie to you. It's been kind of odd, but hopefully
It's coming close. It's coming close. It's coming back.
So that'll be next year. Let's just be honest with it. It'll be next year.
I'm thinking September, but but anyway, guys, you can check out my podcast. It's called the Down in the Valley podcast. We usually record every Wednesday or Thursday if there's a Wednesday match, and we're, like I mentioned, we're going back live on YouTube. Hopefully by September, we're just going to start making some trial runs. But you can usually find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Anchor FM. We talk all about the toros. We give our hot. Jacob and I give our hot takes. Occasionally throw in the
Jacob
occasional
has horrible hot takes. I'll just leave it at that.
Occasionally, Jacob and I would throw in a little bit of NASCAR, Formula One in the mix. Or like I know this past week we made a whole huge analogy of RGV's game against Sacramento with NASCAR and all these tactics. But it's a fun. They're fun episodes to create. And if any San Antonio fans want to know more about what's going down here in the Rio Grande Valley, be sure to check us out and follow us on Twitter at Down in the RGV and on Instagram as well.
It's fun to troll them a little bit as well. I'll just leave it at that.
That's a good podcast. I've listened to it. It's good.
How we troll Ace Notch and local serious local.
El Paso, we didn't talk about the standings because of all the other things. El Paso, though, they're in trouble. I know that they eked out the miracle win against Colorado Springs somehow,
It's
but
a draw.
Or they drew.
Yeah, they drew.
Yeah, they drew 4-4. That's
4-4.
right. They gave up
A head injury.
That's right.
Long story.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for everybody tuning in. I'm going to end it at this time. Once Life Without Goals, we're out of here.